How have you done it? What's made you so unique?
That's a really good question. The question that a lot of people ask, do you think non-medics can be as good as medics? This is an interesting one because a lot of people who might be listening may just be starting their business or they're a few years into their business. We all go through different journeys with this. I think is very useful.
How do you separate yourself from the competition? You have new clients coming through every single day and they come back. How do you do that when perhaps other clinics really struggle to separate themselves?
It's an industry that helps people to feel better about themselves. A lot of what we do in medicine is about improving quality of life.
What are you perhaps doing that kind of keeps you bulletproof during these times of uncertainty that perhaps other clinic owners could learn from?
With any business, you've got to create a strategy and a plan. You've always got to have a strategy to overcome that. That's why is so important.
So today we're joined with Dr. Kaywaan. Thank you so much for coming through, mate. It's great to have you on board. For those who don't know, Dr. Kaywaan is the proud owner and CEO of Hannah London, with 2 branches, one in Colindale, one in Harley Street. You've been around for a pretty long time now. Your brand is making some noise. Before you were actually a client of ours, my girlfriend knew who you guys were, and she's on the other side of London because you've got such a big brand on TikTok, Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, I mean, give yourself an intro for the viewers who don't know. Tell us a bit about the clinic.
Thank you. No, that's a great intro to start with. I mean, I'll start with saying that Hannah London has been around for now 8 years. So we've just hit the 8-year mark and there's a lot to learn throughout that time. A bit about myself, I am a doctor, I'm a GP, and I've been doing aesthetics also for the 8 years that my brand has been running. But I got into it very quickly towards the end of my medical school years. And I would have been doing that alongside my GP work as well. And now the two have come together and I still offer my GP services alongside my aesthetic services. So that's a little bit about our brand. I want to tell you a little bit more about actually how I came to this point of creating the company and how it's evolved over time as well. A lot of people who might be listening may just be starting their business or they're a few years into their business or they may be much further down the line than I am. And we all go through different journeys with this. And I think learning from each other's journey is very useful. So in the beginning, started off as a bit apprehensive actually towards the whole aesthetic industry. It was something that family members, friends were really interested in, and my sister in particular was suggestive that this is something that I might enjoy because it's an industry that helps people to feel better about themselves, feel more confident. And what is it that we do in medicine? We try and make people healthy, and when they're healthier, they're able to do more, they're able to feel more confident in themselves, they're more mobile, and they have a better quality of life. So a lot of what we do in medicine is about improving quality of life. It's not just about saving lives. And the aesthetic industry definitely does that for a lot of people. There's a lot of data and studies to show that that is how it works. I know there might be a lot of skeptics out there that think, oh, it's so superficial to say that the aesthetic industry can help people improve people's quality of life, but it's true.
It's because it's not about, everyone thinks about aesthetics, right? About the way that someone looks, but actually it's not. It's about how that makes them feel.
Yeah, exactly. And a bit earlier we were just talking not just about looks, but other aspects of a person and their personality. How they perform in sports, whatever it may be. If you're feeling more confident, you're more likely to land yourself a good job. You're more likely to be perceived better by friends, dates, and relationships, and so on and so forth. So confidence is not the same as being necessarily super attractive or anything. Confidence comes from within, and the aesthetic industry is not about making people fit into one size. It's just about making people feel better about themselves. So that got me interested, and it's something that therefore I looked into a bit more, and we set it up, as I said, towards the end of my medical school years. But at that point, I wasn't a medical doctor providing those services. I was setting up the business to enable the services to be available. And then I got into it myself. I did the courses and did my learning. At the same time, exploring what it is that I want to achieve within my medical training. And I realized I love a bit of everything. I love to be able to have a person come into the room and consult with me, and they can address whatever their concerns are. and for me to be able to offer some sort of solution for them. So GP fit in really well with that, because within a GP practice, or even a GP in urgent care, or whether it be in primary care, people can come with you with anything whatsoever. So if, for example, I was a specialist, if I was a cardiologist, if a patient suddenly started talking about their toenails, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm not really interested. I need to hear about your heart. That's what you're here for. So I love the fact that I can have a chat to anyone about anything. And often in GP practices, you also get not just health concerns, but you get social concerns, some of the psychological concerns, and the ability to open up with people about that is really empowering and really gratifying. So I kind of went I went through to the GP route, but I have put that in with my aesthetics so that I'm able to address everything, when it's not just about facial aesthetics, but it's also about considering what we call in medicine the biopsychosocial model. So it's like looking at person as a whole and taking a very holistic approach. And that's what we've done with our business at Hannah London. We've taken a very holistic approach that is at the forefront of being luxurious and giving an exemplary service as well.
You've definitely created that luxury vibe. I've been to your clinic and it's breathtaking, right? So you've achieved what most clinicians and aestheticians aspire to achieve throughout their whole career. How have you done it? For people who might be listening who are in the building stages, like what's made you so unique where you've managed to scale to the level you have and you're still scaling further to this point every single day?
That's a really good question. And there's probably lots of answers I can give you that has allowed us to become as successful as we are at the moment. But I would say having a good team and having good staff make a whole lot of difference, because you represent the brand. If you see in aesthetics now, there are a lot of solo practitioners out there at the moment. And it works. There's lots of solo practitioners that are working really well. They've got their following. What does that tell you? So if you're starting a business, if you are someone that's likable, that's charming, that is confident and good at what you do, people will come back to you and people will like that about you. And that sells. But if you create a team and you're the only person that's actually the really charming one, and everybody in the team is not on the same vision as you, and you've got a team just for the sake of creating that, you're going to start having problems and it won't be as successful. I would say the team is probably one of the most important things. With a good team that is supporting you, you can grow further as well. So a lot of business owners will find that even when they start off, they might start off solo, that actually as time goes on, they need more help. That might be having a receptionist, that might be having a PA to deal with some of the inquiries. That PA or that receptionist may also become so part of your brand that they're the first point of contact. And if they're not able to deliver the same ethos and the same charm that you are, that might fall through for the client, and you may not get that lead, and you may not get that client coming through. So a team is really, really important.
How many people have you got on your team now?
I think 10 people altogether.
10 people. When you first started, did you always have like a small team, or was it just you to start off with and build it up?
No, actually, we always started with a team.
Okay.
So that's slightly different to, I guess, how other people might be going into business. Many people are the practitioner themselves, and therefore they build with their own skills. Whereas at that point, when I was starting the business and the clinic, I was actually, as I said, a student at the time. So I wasn't a practitioner. I was very much setting up the business, coming up with the plans, and creating and formulating a team, which allowed me, I guess, rather than to be busy just working and treating clients, I had the opportunity and the time to work on building a team. And building a team isn't as simple as just finding really good people to recruit. People are people at the end of the day. People have their aspirations, they have their ambitions. How do you keep people motivated? How do you keep people following exactly what it is that you want them to do within your business with the same vision? And that takes a lot of time to learn.
How do you sell the vision to your staff, so your staff get as invested in the Hannah London brand as perhaps you are?
I guess because a lot of my staff have been with me for quite a while now, it's not so much needing to sell it. We're actually growing the vision together, so they've become part of the vision, and that's really great to have. And they will give me ideas, and I'll give them ideas. But I guess the most important thing is you will find, people talk about, you'll find your tribe, you'll find people that are like you and have similar ideas to you. And when you find that, it will be easier for people to just follow that vision. But if you find someone that has got completely different views and opinions, it will never work, regardless of how hard you try. So I think the first thing is to find people who have a similar mindset to you. And that's part of recruitment anyway. You've got to find people that are likable and are similar to you. Then you've got to expand and build on each other's ideas. You're never always going to have the same ideas and the same vision, but you bring that together and you take people's feedback, and people really appreciate that. Staff really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good point. I want to ask you about market saturation, right? So the UK aesthetics industry is so saturated, and the UK is also extremely small. And I don't know what the statistic is, but God knows how many clinics there are, practitioners there are just in London alone.
Yeah.
How do you separate yourself from the competition? Because you have new clients coming through every single day and they come back. How do you do that when perhaps other clinics really struggle to separate themselves?
I mean, I think it's very impressive that so many practitioners are starting up and starting on their own. It seems very daunting, as you said, with so many people within the industry now. And kudos to everyone who's trying really hard. And yet, despite them trying really hard, there are people still getting lots of clients. I know so many people who are getting clients and they don't even have an established clinic-based business in the way that I have. A lot of people are renting rooms out. And if they're still able to build and establish themselves without that, it just goes to show they are trustworthy and they've built a reputation for themselves. I think for me, it's been relatively, I guess it's easier in some ways because I'm an established clinic who, okay, in the first couple of years, it would have been harder, as it will be for anyone. You can have a clinic base, but it doesn't mean that people are going to suddenly start trusting you. We built that trust within our client base, the initial customers and clients that come through. And then over time, word of mouth makes a big difference. If you offer a really good service and if people trust you, you just get more and more people. And then from there, the ball just keeps rolling. You get more and more clients. And of course, you still have to do your marketing. You still have to keep your brand alive. And you still have to show that you're very much at the forefront and also very, I guess, effective at what you do and creating the best results. For those that are just starting off, my advice would be persevere and don't lose hope, because there are a lot of new starters out there that are building a reputation. But it is a hard and tough journey where it doesn't happen overnight. And especially if you're doing this on your own, you'll find you've got to put a lot of effort. Once you've developed your skills and you've got people who like you, then other things can come with that. You might put some money into marketing. You may have, as I said, receptionists and a PA to help with your bookings. And then you may have someone helping with some of your social media. And then it just kind of builds up together. For me, it's been really important not just to have a physical clinic location, but having a really good website and having, I guess, really good organic growth as well, and different to just the digital marketing that we do. And I think for a lot of people, they might not even know what organic growth is, because when they're starting off, they think a lot of it is just about, I guess, pushing before and afters on Instagram. But there's so much more to it.
You do really good at the videos, like long video content, like explaining the treatments and explaining like the benefits of it and going, like, giving value away, where some people kind of miss that, or they're kind of scared to put themselves out there. Whereas you've got, I think, on nearly every treatment page, you've got a different video, right, talking about the treatments. That really does help to, like, people to trust you and trust to know what you're talking about, and the way you come across as well was really well.
Yeah, I agree. Just to add to that as well, actually, I think you were perhaps one of the first people to start doing the personal branding stuff, the short form videos, the value videos. Now everybody kind of knows they need to do it. But when we started working together, perhaps 2 years ago plus, people were still really relying a lot on before and afters and graphic design. So you were probably one of the innovators in the UK aesthetics industry to do that. What kind of gave you the vision to do that so early on?
It's interesting that you say that, because I think we've been doing videos and content since the very beginning. And I would have to give credit to my siblings for this, because they have always been very active on social media, or they've been very aware of social media. And 8 years ago, even when it wasn't as big as it is now, we were aware of the importance of having good visual content. Because if you can you can talk about your business as much as you want, but unless you show it off. And that is the best way to show it off to the masses, is through having good video content that is viewed again and again. So we've been doing it since the beginning, and we've seen the value that has brought. And sometimes, yes, there may be a lot of people starting off thinking, oh, I've done so many videos, but I only have so and so views, and no one's really come in. It doesn't work like that. This is where organic growth is different from having an advert. Organic growth is about a slow burn, where you're building your reputation and you're building awareness. It's like similar to having when I was younger, I used to often think, why do I see Coca-Cola adverts everywhere? I even see them at a football pitch. Why are they spending so much money on a football pitch where they don't, like, everybody knows what Coca-Cola is. They don't need to sell it anymore. It is the go-to drink, right? If you have it everywhere, it's always on your mind, and it's raises that awareness and that reputation. Coca-Cola is so ubiquitous that it makes you feel it is the top brand fizzy drink to go for, right? And so you want to make yourself almost as ubiquitous as Coca-Cola has, but another way to put it is you want to be present at every touch point, not just on social media, but having a very strong and what I would say a living website that isn't just left alone after you've created it, but is constantly being updated. Even at your own clinic or your practices, you may have really good, high quality price lists or treatment guides. You may even have some imagery there. You may even have before and afters and booklets there. So it's just about making sure at every touch point your branding is there, but also what it is that you're trying to push for and sell.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. In terms of advertising as well, I often used to think about Coca-Cola because McDonald's. I often used to think about McDonald's because they still advertise all the time as well. And these brands, they're really clever with psychology. So McDonald's' slogan is "ba ba 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 ba, I'm loving it." Yeah. So whenever you think about McDonald's, you think, "Oh, I love it," because you're always told that you love it, right? Which is so interesting. I want to get your take on regulation. So we work with a couple of training academies, and I had a call from one of my academies earlier. She's been in the industry for a while, saying that regulations are super coming in now.
Okay.
I want to get your take on the whole kind of like medic versus non-medic kind of debate. Some doctors are very kind of strong that medics should be the only people that inject. Others are perhaps a little bit more relaxed. What are your personal views on it? And also, what are your personal views on regulation?
I think regulation is important in every form of what we do, whether you have an electrician coming to sort out the electrics of your house, to making sure that your doctors are regulated so that they're following the right standard and the right guidance and they're the best medical practice. So regulations are important, full stop. However, I do think you can become a little bit over obsessive about it, and then regulation just becomes bureaucracy, and bureaucracy just makes things really difficult and annoying for everyone again. And so you may talk to doctors who find it incredibly annoying to do many extra exams and pay for various bodies that regulate them, and they're paying for them, but they might not be getting very much out of them other than further regulation. And electricians will tell you something similar. And then with regards to having non-medics and medics offering similar treatments that really are very much, I guess, medical treatments, and they should be medical treatments because they're changing parts of your face and your body that will also require further medical intervention if it doesn't go well. the question that a lot of people ask, do you think non-medics can be as good as medics? And this is an interesting one, because I really don't feel that there's a lot of bad press that non-medics get. And I think this is a marketing tool to get regulation, right? So if doctors post a lot about non-medics injecting poorly and getting really bad cases, yeah, I mean, it's going to drive people more towards medics. So it's a marketing tool, and it's to put you off non-medics. That is not to say that there are potentially bad doctors and bad non-medics out there, and there's probably more bad non-medics because they're not regulated in the same way that the doctors are. If there's a bad doctor, they will be called into question eventually, and they have their license and various things under the line. If you're a non-medic, what is regulating you? And the thing is, non-medics have been able to get away with a lot. They've been able to get away with a lot of severe disfiguring cases. And they get away with it is because people go and see them voluntarily. No one's forced them to go to see them. And in a court of law, I'd be very surprised to see how, they would argue if someone has had a bad outcome, why did you go to that person in the first place? Unless they lied about the qualifications.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think regulation's important. I think non-medics should be regulated as well. Whether non-medics should not be allowed to do these treatments, I think it's obviously depends on data, really. And if we've got enough data to support that is negative for them to do, the thing is, a non-medic doing it should still have some form of not just regulation, but a qualification that allows them to practice in a safe way. An extension of that, I just want to say, there are non-medics that take blood from people. There are non-medics that may insert certain medical devices. There are non-medics that perform permanent tattooing on people. So there are lots of non-medical professionals out there that do various body treatments and body-related treatments that we've never questioned in the past. And now that obviously with the fillers and these non-invasive aesthetics, are we questioning it more because we want to drive the medical industry in this and we want to protect the medical industry? And as I'm saying this as a doctor,
Yeah.
Possibly, but of course, as a doctor and as someone who would love for the aesthetic industry to become safer and safer, I think that does not mean less regulation. I just don't want to say a non-medic should never be allowed to do anything related to aesthetics, because I don't think that is based on evidence and data. It's based on me perhaps wanting to take it all for myself. The most important thing is regulation and safety.
100%. Did you hear about that Lip King dude? It was like a year ago. He called himself the Lip King. He gave someone a BBL. I think they died. It's awful. They died.
Yeah.
I was with a client of mine in London, Amir at Mediderma last week, and he said apparently that Lip King guy is injecting again now. So you make an interesting point about there's nothing to regulate the non-medics, because what's stopping him injecting, What are your thoughts on that Lip King thing? That's just insane, right?
It is insane. It's crazy. But look, the thing is, people are going to him. So but you know what, it's hard for me to say very much more to that, because why would you go to someone who's potentially a criminal or potentially who's been
a murderer,
criminally negligent, right? If that's the case, I don't know. I don't know the details of the case, so I'm not going to say it specifically. But equally, there are lots of. Again, I'm not here to defend non-medics, but I think there are lots of doctors that have done really questionable things in the past, and you will hear stories from all around the world where there have been doctors that have done certain procedures or given certain medication that have been unsafe. You've heard of famous celebrities who've been given things like ketamine and propofol that has not been safe to administer, and it's led to death. Look, we as doctors do risky things, and we have lives at stake for people, and it's important for us to be incredibly safe, and this is why we're regulated. However, when a non-medic is not regulated in the way that we are, the risk is just so much higher, and I think people should really open their eyes to that. But also, I think there should be certain responsibility on people out there as well, to do their I mean, if you were to search my name, you would find my credentials, you find my GMC license, you'll find information about me. This is how being regulated works. Similar for pharmacists, similar for nurses. You find the regulation there. If you were to search, I guess, a non-medic that's similar to the Lip King, there'll be little information that you find about their qualifications. And
I think with doctors, it's like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. It's just like there's more to lose.
there's more to
You're
this,
going to take less risks with whatever you're doing, the business you're running. It's going to be, I'm going to say, safer than non-medics, but then you're going to take it slightly more seriously than a lot of other people can just start up and then they can take a risk. And if they, what's the worst that's going to happen to them?
Yeah.
Whereas you've just trained in, you just like been to university for however long, studied, got all these regulations, all these certificates, etc. You're not going to just lose that by doing something stupid, right?
Absolutely. And if risk can happen both for medics and non-medics, and if risks and side effects do arise, I feel that medics are obviously better trained in being able to manage this as well. So a lot of our complications that we've seen, a lot of horror stories that we've seen, often are associated with non-medics who may have come across a complication, but then don't know how to resolve that complication because they don't even have the training for that. So yeah, it's a very big, messy world out there with not regulated aesthetics. But I guess this is one of the things about this industry, because it's people want to get their hands on it. People want to be able to have this readily accessible. They want to have the best deals. They'll go for the cheapest thing. And this is where problems come up.
So I'd love to get your take on the current state of the economy is affecting the aesthetics industry right now, and perhaps what you foresee for the future over the next couple of years within the aesthetics industry. It's obvious that people are spending less money. The cost of living is definitely a problem for a lot of day-to-day people who get these treatments. Has that affected Hannah London at all? And if it hasn't, what are you perhaps doing that kind of keeps you bulletproof during these times of uncertainty that perhaps other clinic owners who could be listening could learn from?
Yeah. So with any business, you've got to create a strategy and a plan on how to address when the economy isn't going well for you, or if you're finding that the numbers are dropping in terms of the people that may have been coming regularly. You've always got to have a strategy to overcome that, and that's why marketing is so important. What I'm trying to say is that as a business, you can never just let yourself start to fail. It's similar to restaurants who may have found that during COVID it was really hard to stay afloat, and they had to come up with strategies, and people came up with outdoor seating, they came up with all these creative ideas, various forms of delivery that they could do. You have to come up with a way to keep meeting your business needs. And so be creative with that is the number one thing that I would say. Number two thing is there is a phenomenon called the lipstick economy, which is to do with something about how even at times of real struggle, and I think this was a time of like the Great Depression or the time of the war, where lipstick was still selling quite a lot during that time. So it just goes to show that people are still very much wanting to look after themselves and look after their aesthetic, even at times of economic struggle. And number three, if you believe in what you do and you believe what you do is adding benefit to people's lives, and you can really push for that within your clinic and within with your customers and your clients, and make sure that they're feeling the benefits, they will keep on returning. I guess it's a lot harder if you're perhaps not giving the best service, you're not giving the best results, and you just want more and more and more. You're probably not going to get it because your mindset and your vision is different to what it is that people are looking for at times of economic difficulty.
You just made a really good point, which brings me on to my next question. Do you think if somebody comes into this industry just for the money, do you feel like that's a problem? Like, do you feel like you can just come into this industry to make money? As we know, you can make a lot of money in this industry. Or do you feel like you have to have a passion for this as well to really succeed?
Making a lot of money in this industry it's a good point that you make first. So there is money to be made in the industry, but a lot is relative. There are lots of other ways to create large amounts of income, and I wouldn't necessarily say to someone who's looking into coming into this industry, particularly the medics out there, because they get often attracted to this industry because they think they can make a lot of money. I don't think your motivation should be money. It should be whether this is something that you might enjoy, and if it is, can you make money alongside that, because that's a bonus, rather than this is because of a lot of money. If you go into it to make a lot of money, you are going to struggle, because you will find that it takes a lot more to make money out of this than you perhaps initially thought it would be. And it would be easier to make a lot of money doing what you already do, i.e. if you're a doctor doing your regular shifts, you might find it easier to just add extra shifts and extra locums than actually coming up with a whole new business and a whole new venture that may take years to take off. So it's not as straightforward as chasing after the money. You should definitely do it if you're passionate, and you should create a strategy and a plan for yourself.
Yeah, solid advice. I think a lot of people get into the industry for perhaps the wrong reasons, and I don't think it's always the people who get involved in the industry is their fault. There's been a lot of academies over the years that promote the Lamborghini lifestyle, the helicopter lifestyle, training aesthetics, make 7 figures. So I think perhaps they're almost kind of brainwashed from the entry into the industry, which leads me to my next question. In terms of like the training academy side of the aesthetics industry, you've got medic training academies, non-medic training academies. Do you feel like perhaps that could create problems with the industry as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge business, and there's a lot of money to be made in training people. And so selling a certain lifestyle, showing off, especially if you are the training academy owner or the leaders there, then you show off a certain, as you said, the Lamborghini lifestyle or high flyer. You're going to get people interested, and that's how actually a lot of Instagram influencers do it as well, right? There used to be lots of influencers that would write up courses, whether it's a fitness course or how to get rich
Forex.
quick. Yeah,
Trading.
Trade
Suddenly.
and they would do that by showing off this fancy lifestyle, and people would be interested in that. There are actually really big names out there that still do worldwide conferences and charge thousands of pounds. I know that there is what's his name? He does these big conferences and he tells you how to become a millionaire, right? And there are people doing property shows. Ultimately, shows and these training courses, they always sell because you sell a certain lifestyle and people want to be you, which is not something that we can ever change. But I think people do need a reality check. Nothing happens without the hard work. And if these shows and training academies help you to inspire you, and so be it. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't get trapped into it. These courses and conferences should be there to develop yourself, to professionally develop yourself, and for your learning, rather than your way to get rich quick.
Yeah, solid advice.
One thing you kind of touched on it a little bit, but a lot of obviously we speak to aesthetic clinics every day, and a lot of people find it hard to, I guess, upsell to their clients. They just can't get the clients to spend that much money or sometimes return. Why do you think people face that problem so much? Because sometimes you can get people through the door. Like our job is obviously to get new patients, new clients through the door, but some people just can't get them to come back. Whereas like you are solid at getting the clients to come back. 100%. Like you said before, like I know if you can get them through the door, I know we're going to be able to help them. So I know they're going to return. But like, how can you break that down for people that just kind of struggle with that?
Okay, so number one, if you want to keep a client, to keep them coming back, you've got to build, I guess, a certain relationship. You've got to build the rapport with them, because they'll be coming back to either see you or to come back to your clinic because they felt good about the whole journey and that whole process. Number two, give them the result that they want. That's really important. And if you feel confident in what you do and you help them to achieve that result, then amazing. They'll come back for other things because they now trust you with that particular treatment that they first sought out. Number three, I think is important to open the client to the different services that you offer by showcasing, perhaps even subtly within the clinic itself, what other things that you might do. So maybe certain machines that you might have in the room that you might be able to talk about, certain leaflets. For me, a lot of clients, I love all the treatments that we do, and I've had various skin treatments, microneedling, chemical peels, all these facial treatments. And so clients might ask me, actually, what is it that you've tried before? And then you open a dialogue around that. I think those are the key ways of actually getting people to become open to considering other treatments. And then it's up to the client to therefore make that push. If you want to be even more business savvy, there may be certain ways that you can retarget. So if you've had a discussion, the clients come in and they've had, let's say they've had a facial with you. You marketed for a facial, they came in for a facial, and then afterwards they mentioned during the facial, or they're really concerned about the lines that they've got on their forehead. So they might be interested in having some Botox at some point, but they're not ready for it yet. So it may be something that you can note down on the client list and say, would you be open for us if we've got any kind of open days or events, or even any marketing that we have around this, would you be open to receiving that? And if they are, then that's an opportunity for you to then keep reminding them about the service that you offer. And so at some point they might decide, oh, actually, you know what, now I am ready to get Botox, and actually I will go to this clinic because I saw them, how they perform and how well they do, and they've sent me a few messages about it in the past, so I think I would consider it. So that's another way. But it is you have to take a very strategic approach to it and think about it from an all-encompassing way, especially when it comes to how you're going to market not just yourself but your other treatments.
How important do you think it is to just generally asking the right questions to the person that's in front of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it, allowing that environment and that safe space for people to be comfortable to talk about other things that they might be interested in. And it's so often that you can go into a clinic, especially if the person who's offering the treatment isn't very motivated and they're just wanting to be in and out. So think about when you go into a doctor's surgery and you've got a GP appointment that's for 10 minutes, and you go in, the doctors really, really do not want you to mention one more thing. They're here for that one thing only. That is exactly how you shouldn't be when you're in an aesthetics industry and you're in any industry and you're trying to sell your services. If you just hone in on that one thing, you don't actually ever get to know more about what they were interested in. But if you hone into that one thing, you will get them in and out through the door, and it'll be quicker. And this is, I guess, one of the concerns that we have. Some people just want people in and out through the door, and they think, okay, well, hopefully they'll come back for more. No, you've got to, and actually a lot of people might not even open up to other things without feeling comfortable and without you asking, as you said, the right questions.
So you now inspire probably many people in the aesthetics industry today. I know there's a lot of, so for example, my girlfriend, she's set up a small clinic from her home and she really aspires to your brand, right? Was there anybody that inspired you in the early days? Any doctor, perhaps, any aesthetician that you looked up to and just really kind of wanted to be that way? If so, who would it be?
Or even now as well?
That's a good question. I would say that I do pride myself in setting myself apart quite a bit now. So it's a bit more different. And I don't know many other aesthetic clinics that offer such a wide variety of what we offer in such an all-encompassing way, and that have also been able to marry up not just the aesthetics part, but a well-being part, but also the GP services in such a concise and coherent way. In terms of in the beginning, I would say there were lots of very aspiring estheticians, and Dr. Zach Ali, I remember that was one of the courses I actually went to as well, and I was training for Derma Medical for a while. He was incredible at what he does, and he is still incredible at what he does with his clients and how he can make facial transformations. And I was definitely quite inspired by his ability to inject so precisely and so elegantly. However, I realized also through my time in the industry that my approach to aesthetics was different. Dr. Ali and some of my colleagues are amazing at doing these facial transformations using lots of various amount of filler. And for me, it wasn't about using tons of filler. I found myself even more interested in skin than I was in just overfilling people's faces. And so I found my own way within the aesthetics industry without having to necessarily be a copycat or trying to aspire to a very specific approach to aesthetics.
So interesting. You said Dr. Zakir Ali. So I think you might know, he's a good friend of mine, Haroon,
Yeah.
Dr. Haroon Ashraf.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was on an episode for the HW podcast maybe like a year ago.
Yeah.
Asked him the same question. He also said Dr. Zak Ali.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what he done at Derma Medical was astronomical.
It was amazing.
You know?
He's made a very phenomenal change, and I guess there aren't many people that were huge in the industry at that time. When I first started 8 years ago, it was still quite a small industry, and there were few figures that did incredibly well. And I think he was a particular figure that was humble and very sophisticated and very well at communicating how he achieved his results. And then beyond that, I think there's been a lot of people that try to do similar job to him, which is creating those transformations, those before and afters, where you take a full face approach. And as I said, there are many that have tried to copy exactly that, but there are also others that have tried to enter a different realm. Some people prefer doing things like lots of fun lasers stuff. So there's people that have become very famous at offering CO2 lasers, for example. And it's interesting to see those differences. And again, at Hannah London, it's all about offering that variety, but bringing the different modalities together. So you're not just focusing on one particular thing.
What's next for Hannah London? Right, I know you've got a lot in the pipeline, but anything that your fan base or future fan base can look out for at your Colindale or Harley Street locations?
Yeah, so as I said, we're at 8 years now, so we're having an open day coming up to celebrate the 8-year anniversary on June the 29th. So I'll be very excited to see a lot of people there, and we'll be showcasing some of the new treatments. So every year we look at what's innovative and what is trending. We see whether the science is there, the evidence is there, and we might buy, for example, new machines, new energy devices. We may be offering new different techniques, new products, and this is an opportunity to discuss that. And we also are always expanding. So I guess in the coming year, we want to expand our services even further. We're doing already a lot of health and well-being beyond aesthetics. So the GP services that we offer, alongside the GP services, there may be even more to this. So for example, we're big on our weight loss service, which is aiming to manage diabetes or prevent diabetes, or even prevent certain comorbidities that people might be at risk of due to family history or due to their health in general. So that is opening up a bigger and bigger space, and with that comes with body confidence as well, and helping them achieve their goals for their body. And then we've talked about facial aesthetics, we've talked about body and body well-being, but there's also maybe a mental aspect as well that we might approach. So well-being when it comes to psychology and the mind.
So final question to conclude, right? We like to do this with our guests. So yeah, firstly, how can people find you on social media? What are your tags? And secondly, for any esthetician who's in the building phase of their business, or perhaps they've been established for a little while, but they're just really struggling with the motivation to keep pushing, what would be your message to them?
So I'll start off with my message to people that are aspiring to grow their business. It requires a lot of hard work, and you've probably done a lot of that already to get to where you are, and you've got to persevere. As with any business, your business is a bit like your baby. You've got to nourish it, nurture it, and slowly it will grow and develop. You've got to continue to develop yourself personally and professionally as well, which may be going through more courses and learning, but it may be also seeing if there's something that you might not be doing particularly well, whether it's communication with your patients or even with your staff members, and see if improving on that may even drive you further. You've got to look at all of your media as well, whether it's your social media, your website, and any videos that you might be making that might be going YouTube, wherever. And if you are doing enough of that, and if you are, and is it all cohesive within your brand, or is it all kind of very bitty and not really working well to deliver a particular message? One last thing I'd add to aspiring aestheticians: it's easier to start by offering a particular service or niche and growing and building on that first before you do something like we're doing, which is expanding our services and making it broader. it makes clients, it helps clients to find you better. So for example, there are, we mentioned earlier on a non-medic called the Lip King, and so I guess a lot of his branding was developed around offering lip services, and that niche helped perhaps him as a non-medic grow. So just consider that as developing your niche. And the next thing that you asked me was
your social media
my social
tags. Yeah, how
So
can people give you a follow?
You can give me a follow on Kaywaan, and my clinic is at Han London. But we've also got, as I said, a website, a YouTube channel, so please feel free to subscribe on there.
Incredible. Anybody who wants to give Kaywaan a follow, the tags will be in the description to this YouTube video. Yeah, thank you so much, Kaywaan.
Yeah,
that
thank you
was
very much.
incredible.
Thank you for having me.
It was great. Cheers for coming on.
Thank you.